was so proud of him.
Life leads us all down many paths.
We were just smiling because we were just having the time of our lives.
Those lucky enough to have crossed paths with Charles Decker II
You'll be in my heart forever. I love you.
know what a fine young man he was.
He taught me how to be a good sister and always know what I've got when I've got it.
I lost a good friend, and a son.
Others might think Charles's story ends here, where his motorcycle crashed 2 months ago.
I think of him all the time.
Those people would be wrong.
He'll always be living on, basically, and he will be able to help so many people.
Charles was born 23 years ago in Menominee, Wisconsin.
When he was little, he was very, very good at climbing.
By age 2, he'd learned how to sneak cookies from the top of a refrigerator.
My wife and I knew Charles was a very bright kid. Very, very bright.
And when he was little, he was always just smiling so big.
In recent years, Charles devoted himself to his 5-year-old daughter, Chelsea.
And you can see just by the look on their faces that it was so good just to have time together.
We were really proud of him. He was a good father. He was working hard to go to school, to finish school for his daughter and to make their life better.
September 10th, his brother Anthony makes Charles an irresistible offer.
I said, you're going to get on this bike tonight and we're going to have some fun.
Anthony leads the way. On the back of the motorcycle Charles has borrowed is his girlfriend, 20-year-old Jessica Munns.
She was so excited to go riding.
Along this stretch of Hudson Road in Afton, the thrilling ride in an instant turns horrifying.
All of a sudden, I was having to be forced into a really hard lean to try to make the turn. Next thing I know, my bike's being pushed, and I didn't know what was going on.
After their tires apparently bump, both motorcycles hit the ditch and crash. In the darkness, dazed, Anthony searches for his brother.
And at the point when I saw his face, I knew, like, everything just didn't seem right.
There's 2 people on the ground. We need an ambulance. Yep, we're gonna get it.
Charles suffers serious head injuries.
Is he breathing? No, he's not.
His girlfriend Jessica can't move her legs. Her back is broken. Neither were wearing helmets. The next day at Regions Hospital in St. Paul, the doctors keep Charles' heart and lungs working, but they find no significant brain activity. A series of tests confirm the worst. Charles is brain dead. On his driver's license, Charles had declared himself an organ donor. At the hospital, his parents meet with representatives of LifeSource, the organization which coordinates organ donations in the upper Midwest.
Hi, Sarah. This is Lori with LifeSource.
Lori Larson is a LifeSource donor coordinator.
Do you think we're ready for them?
After discussing the organ donation process with Lori, Charles's family encourages LifeSource to move forward, knowing it's what he wanted.
It's a reflection of him and his character, and it makes us proud of him.
The next several hours, family and friends spend as much time as possible with Charles.
All right, ready? Chuck, we're going to lay your hand down.
And they make handprints.
We're going to press.
To remember him by.
Got big hands, doesn't he? Big hands.
Lori, meanwhile, begins the complicated task of matching Charles's organs with potential recipients.
Blood type O.
At the top of the list are those in the most dire medical situation.
5'10" and 87 kilos.
The closer to Regions Hospital, the better.
We want to transplant an organ as quickly as possible, and with heart and lungs, because they can only be out of the body for so long, they need to be transplanted as quickly as possible.
CT, it didn't show any contusions.
While simultaneously communicating with dozens of transplant officials.
Liver's placed, heart is placed, chest x-ray looks clear.
Lori also closely monitors Charles's organs.
Looks clean.
By all legal and medical definitions, Charles has been dead now for several hours. If not for the machines, his heart would stop. Tearfully, after being wheeled into his room from down the hall, Charles' girlfriend, Jessica, says goodbye.
It's almost sure she will be paralyzed, waist down.
That must break your heart.
Yes, it does.
Just a few miles away at Abbott Northwestern Hospital, emotions are nearly as intense, but for very different reasons.
We're so thankful to the donor family.
For more than 6 months, 21-year-old Kyle Kraft has been too sick to leave this hospital. If he doesn't get a new heart soon, he will die.
It's going to change my life a lot.
In a matter of hours, Kyle and Charles will cross paths in the most extraordinary way. But first, Charles' family must take an agonizingly painful walk down a lonely corridor towards an operating room.
It's a big loss for my wife and I, but we are strong people. We've always been strong. We'll make it through this.
It is here, a short distance from where Charles's loved ones say goodbye.
We know we will also have something very cherishable because he has donated.
That new lives will begin for Kyle Kraft and several other families. Mark Daly, KARE 11 News. Rarely does such an awful moment lead to such pure joy. Charles Decker was a softie.
It's okay, come here.
His 5-year-old daughter Chelsea knew it, and so did his sisters.
He may act like a really strong guy, but he still has his baby blanket in his bottom drawer.
My son, whenever he gave anything, he gave it without any strings or any conditions, and it was from his heart.
When someone as giving and full of love as Charles dies, the void left behind is immense.
There was no pain in my body, it was all in my heart.
2 months ago, Charles suffered severe head injuries in a motorcycle accident. Doctors at Regions Hospital in St. Paul declared him brain dead. His family decided to honor Charles's wishes by donating his organs.
My wife and I will carry out his desire.
It's an amazing gift.
Lori Larson works for LifeSource,
Good deal.
the Twin Cities-based organization that coordinates organ donations.
Donor's a 23-year-old male Caucasian.
With the Decker family's blessing, Lori first searches throughout the upper Midwest,
Head trauma, blunt injury after a motorcycle accident.
then all over the country to find the best possible matches for Charles's organs.
There's over 89,000 people currently on the waiting list.
Near the very top of the list, a few miles away at Abbott Northwestern Hospital, is 21-year-old Kyle Kraft.
I've been waiting since, I believe it was January of 2001.
Born with a congenital heart defect, Kyle's already had 2 major surgeries and 5 pacemakers.
The risk of dying from the surgery itself are fairly high.
Without a transplant, Kyle has only months to live.
Just want him to be a normal, healthy kid again.
Back in St. Paul, meanwhile, the Decker family says goodbye to Charles after recipients are identified for 7 of his organs.
So we're in the OR.
Timing the next several hours
About an hour before cross-clamp.
will be crucial.
I'm trying to make sure that all the physicians are on the same page.
Surgeons at 6 different hospitals will be involved in the procedure.
We're fine. Here, what's going on there?
Bon voyage. See you tomorrow.
With no guarantee he'll survive the surgery, Kyle heads to the OR.
All right.
If you put yourself in their shoes, they have no other choice.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Good luck.
In addition to his heart,
Take this over.
Pass it over?
Yeah.
Here.
doctors recover Charles' lungs, his liver, pancreas, and kidneys.
Thank you, doctor. Thanks a lot.
Each is packed in ice and rushed to another medical facility for transplant.
See you guys. Bye, take care.
It's been a long wait.
As the heart arrives at Abbott Northwestern, Kyle's parents imagine the donor family's pain.
We're so thankful to the donor family.
Down the hall, after surgeons remove Kyle's failing heart, machines keep his blood circulating until Dr. Viv Kashetri shocks Kyle's new heart to life.
Okay, we have liftoff.
The same morning in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, a 27-year-old man gets a new pancreas. At the Mayo Clinic, a 55-year-old grandmother receives a new liver. In New York, a 9-year-old girl gets a new kidney. And elsewhere, Charles's lungs and other kidney provide the gift of life to grateful recipients.
And after everything was done, and I had to leave the hospital, I didn't know how I would leave the hospital. But when they came in and they told me that my son's heart was beating in somebody else's body and it was beating on its own, then I knew I could.
He's now living in a part of many different people.
Despite many tears, Charles's funeral is truly a celebration of life.
So even though my brother has passed, he is continuing to help me by teaching me the gift of giving. So thank you, Chuck, for all that you have done for all of us.
Had it not been for him, they'd be lying in a hospital praying and hoping for a miracle. Well, Chuck was that miracle.
Thank you so much for good care for him. We appreciate it.
2 weeks after he got his new heart,
Free.
Kyle Kraft, a very thankful and relieved young man, is finally home.
Like bringing him home from the hospital when he was a baby.
Eager to experience a sense of normalcy again.
This has been in there since I left. It's almost 7 months old.
They know almost nothing about the donor and his family, but Kyle's parents say they think about them constantly.
50 times a day as I'm driving.
Yeah.
I can't tell you. That's honestly,
so
I say
thankful.
that I bet 50 times a day.
LifeSource has a very strict privacy policy. Information is shared between donor and recipient families only when both parties want it shared. Almost never do they meet face-to-face less than a year after transplant. This is a rare exception.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
Two families, one's grief equaled only by the other's gratitude.
I have some pictures.
I want to see him so bad. Oh my gosh.
It was a tragedy, but it came out to be a good ending. So for a lot of different people. So I really happy about that piece. That makes it a little easier to take, I guess.
The only way it could have been better
You saved my son's life.
is if Charles were here.
You have to meet Kyle.
But of course, in so many ways,
Thank you.
he could not possibly have been any more present.
I hope it wasn't too.
Mark Daly, KARE 11 News.
Would you like to see some pictures?
Yes, please.
This is when he was just born.